Okay, we are an office. We're based in Barcelona, but we're from Madrid. We were both, bueno, a los Atienza Maure. We came here 7 years ago to Barcelona to one of our first projects was this house refurbishment in Burgos, in the north of Spain. We're in a small town facing a Ebro River and an amazing landscape. And the house was kind of like this was the actual house before it was burned down because of a fire, like an accident that happened. So the house was completely ruined when we found it, and it was completely empty. Only the stone walls survived. So what we wanted to do was to kind of, well, this is the actual state, like all the ruins that we found. So first, looking at this kind of romantic kind of approach with all the materials and this kind of set of images that come from this region where the stone is like ubiquitous. There's always this kind of relationship with the ruins, with the Romanesque architecture, with stone, with wood, with these Castilian houses, which in the end are quite dark inside because it's a cold region. So it was one of our goals was to instead of bringing these kind of dark, introverted spaces related to these Castilian houses, was to introduce light in a similar way as architects like Higueras does in Madrid. This is the Rascacielos, which is an amazing project because, in case you don't know it, it's a house attached to it's a buried house attached to his ex-wife's house, and the only source of light is in a 4 by 4 meters skylight at the roof. So we kind of wanted to introduce this strategy alongside this other Johnson's house, which you all know for sure, which feels really contemporary with these swinging panels and with these cross views and hidden spaces that we admired so much. So in the end, the strategy, as you can see here, it's not very visible here, but the house was partly buried as well. So the only source of light, if we didn't want to touch the walls, no, so the stone walls and like all the value of this house was to introduce the light with the skylights in the roof. So we designed a set of crossed skylights that were crossing rooms to touch the ground spaces. So all the interior space is connected through this atrium here, which in the end is what you'll see in the pictures that brings most of the light to the house. And then this other strategy of the skylights, you can see here with the 5 kind of voids or atriums that we placed, which were kind of the ones that were connected in the section. As I say, they were crossing the rooms, and with a glass the floor in some rooms, they connected to the living room. So we produced this some kind of devices or special devices that acted as thresholds, which introduced like all the circulation with the ones that were preserved, like this stone staircase and the arches, with the new intervention that was always in dialogue with these elements, marking a clear difference, but at the same time trying to blend and trying to make it a continuous space where the section and the light was like the cross section and the cross views of the space was really important with the light. So we kind of created this scenographical effect in which you have to kind of go through the house up in the circulation in the many staircases, which is kind of labyrinthical. So you have always these spaces that are connecting each other, like in some blur the distinction between the interior and the exterior spaces. This, for example, the new staircase that we placed, because this part from here to the bottom is completely buried. So, as I said, the source of light was at the skylight through the roof. So these we placed with these railings, with these elements that were kind of the devices that gave this. No, this is Simone Bossi, the photographer, but this is the kind of the effect we wanted with this space. No, that you have always this kind of urge to explore it, to know what's going on really, and with many views that are not completely clear at the beginning, no, until you kind of circulate through it. So this is the atrium, the thresholds we created with different layers that were kind of dividing the space, but in a continuous way, with all the circulation objects that we placed. And these other swinging or mobile devices that were placed again, this is the section in which we introduce the light through the skylights in the rooms. These are the rooms. So as I said, they have sliding panels that are connecting them with the outside, with the skylights, and also with the floor to the living room. These other sliding panels that we're creating these cross views as well. So we have always this sense of discovery, and always all the spaces are facing at each other in kind of interesting ways for us. Then this we introduced this. We punctuated the space, which is in the end very classical, let's say, because it's a stone house with a lot of presence. So we didn't want to kind of impose like a completely different, I don't know, aesthetic or material approach. So these elements that are in contrast with the existing elements and also with these new arches that we were placing to more or less blend with the existing ones. So these are the new arches in concrete, and these were the old ones that we preserved, of course, and that we wanted for them to make a continuous space, but at the same time to make it a clear difference. No, like these are the ones that survive, and this is like one of final image by Simone Bossi that we have. I'm mixing a lot of process photos and final photos because I think the project is much more interesting when we kind of show, even if it's a little bit dirty, like all these processes and construction phase photos. So these are also some elements that we place in a really kind of lightweight or unstable, attached to the old heavy compression house. And maybe this is one of the first explorations that we're developing now in our office to how to make these kind of devices that are kind of lightweight but and quite complex, but at the same time really easy to build. So even though if they look maybe a bit sophisticated, in the end they are really easy and adapted to the knowledge of the workers and what's available there. So this is something that we were really interested in, the kind of this approach in which you have to adapt, even if you introduce these contemporary elements, but you have to adapt to the techniques and the knowledge that you have in that side, no? So this is also like a continuation of the vernacular approach that we have. So, for example, we had this also lightweight, very simple porch, no? That one porch, like a gallery, veranda that we attached to the stone house, with all this installation space in which we placed like a stone door, which was also made like in a really easy way by the workers of the site. So there's always this dialogue with contemporary techniques, but also old materials and a simple way of dealing with it and producing them. And this is the final image of the house. I'm going really fast because as we've lost 20 minutes. Yeah.
At the same time that we started this project in Burgos, we came to Barcelona because one of our friends that we met in Lausanne in the EP Fair when we were doing, actually we met in the EP Fair doing Erasmus. And we also met another mathematician guy that is like a businessman. You will heard about him and actually you will meet him tonight, I just tell you. And this guy suddenly told us that he had met some investor that they wanted to do a building in Barcelona. We were in Madrid and we thought like, okay, let's make a proposal. And they liked the proposal. Maybe they like as well that we were young and maybe cheap as well. And so we arrived to Barcelona. We didn't have any experience. And we found this plot in this plan with this inner courtyard. But our plot didn't have a back facade to the inner courtyard, so it was like this kind of complicated plots from the corners that have half of the light. So we didn't know how to face it. At the same time, we were interested to have a facade with a lot of light to try to avoid the problem of the inner courtyard. So we were amazed by these facades in Barcelona from architects from the 70s like Jans or Leonori, that all of them have this solar protection system that were really useful to control the Mediterranean climate with this strong sun that we are suffering now. And at the same time, during the winter, you could use this sun to heat the house. So with a simple device of solar protection, you could create an interesting facade. Like here was the facade, this one is from Coderc. And suddenly we understood that there was something interesting in the back facade. The back facades from the inner courtyards were more simple, were more basic, and they all have something that was these lines, these lines that you can pull with a rope, that they are very cheap, that in Mediterranean, all the Mediterranean countries, I think you can find them. And we like them as a simple device that is cheap, is accessible, and we wanted to make something with it. And with this like non-design back facade, that in a way we can find in the imaginary of Coderc. This is a principal facade, but still. So we start this project creating these blinds that we wanted to project them outside. So it's not just a normal blind with a rope, that it has another level of complexity, and this projection could help you to see the street, the airflow can go through. So we start doing some 3D, and at the same time we found a normal industrial guy that he produced windows, and we told him like, okay, we have these cheap blinds, and we want to create with normal aluminum profiles a system to project them with a simple motor. And we were doing tests in his factory until we really tried it in the facade. So we understood that we wanted just like the concrete structure, the wooden blinds, and the small metallic or aluminum profiles to hold the system. So we did the section with the same idea. And this building has something strange, that in the ground floor we had two houses. This was not something classic in Barcelona. And this is, it's important for us when we face a project to understand where we can put more energy. And we understood that this commercial residential house, the facade was the most important place to work on it. So we focus on different systems that I will explain, and this is the result. The pictures are from Lorenzo Sandri, and here you see like these houses. We have two different houses in the ground floor. Both of them have these sliding wooden blinds that allows them to have this privacy device, plus this big window facing the sky to give them a bit of light. So once we understood that this system was like more or less controlled, we wanted to create like the second system, that was the railing. And the railing had, we wanted to use this metallic mesh, this stainless mesh that pull a lot. So to contrast this pulling of the mesh, we understood that only the mesh will bend the metallic, the post, because they were really thin. So we did like a system of hand wooden rails that would like work in compression to contrast the mesh. Here we see like how the system works, and the important thing for us is that the three of them are working together. Without the wooden handrail, this thin post would bend. So actually, to build this, we have to put the mesh, then the wood, then to start like pulling the mesh. And this is the result. Like the handrail works, and the railing almost disappear. Here you see from inside how this steel mesh bend the metallic tensor. And with the same concept, the same approach, we thought that we should like keep working, because once you achieve something like this, you already have like a constructive universe, and also very important, you have some workers that understand you, and some workers that want to do what you want. So we thought, okay, let's do all the things, all the interesting things with the same concept, with the same approach. So this is the staircase that connects the ground floor with the mezzanine. And with very simple metallic profiles, we did all the details. Here is like a picture where the things are starting to work. Like the same system than in the facade. This tensor, the mesh. You need this wooden shelf to control, to balance the system. And the result, even if it's complex, it looks simple at that. You know, like this simple and complex quote from Barozzi that we love. More details that you could understand. This is the ground floor level. It has something special that this corridor to ride to the elevator has like 5.5 meters height. So we also wanted to make like another device there, like a lamp. We work with the same elements. And here it was like a Tramex, like a metallic grill. And we wanted to create like something like floating in the sky with this post, the same post that you use for the railing. We put it here as a beam. Obviously, this is not. There is like an equilibrium that we have to compensate with this cable. Very easy. It floats. This picture is too light, maybe. At night is more beautiful. These are the normal 5 floors with the houses. We didn't want to create like a difficult or complex atmosphere in every detail of the house, so we did like basic, bright, and comfortable spaces. Nothing very special. And then the last device that obviously we didn't design at the beginning because this is you go and then the project starts to have a dynamic. So, okay, we already used the Tramex, the metallic grill. So we wanted to do these ventilation chimneys with the same system. 2 Tramex that were like compressed by these 310 rods and a really easy metallic sheet that we will bend at like in the side between the 4 310 rods to protect from the water the ventilation pipes. So basically, if you remove one of these 3 things, it falls. It's a system that is like compressed, and we let the ventilation pipes more or less clean, and then we put this device. And then to finish, they asked us a model of this project for an exposition, a jack, and we did like we took the pictures of all this process, the 4 devices we did. We print them in a fabric, and we use the fabric as a tensile, that like as a tensor. So because we wanted to do like a polycarbonate sheet with this tensor that here we tried with some ropes, but then we used the fabric that was printed, and then we put some lead tubes to create like more or less a system similar to what you've seen, that everything is working together to show our project.
Okay, I'm going to explain La Nave, which is this refurbishment, or rehabilitation that we're going to see this evening. So I think it's really interesting that you're able to see all the explanation today. This area is El Besós, which is kind of the periphery of Barcelona. It's like another municipality. It's a really interesting area, touching an industrial kind of area with a highway, many highways, many sports fields, some terrain bags, which we are dealing with at the course at this program as well. So our building is here. It's a 6-story high building, which is completely, the program is completely random. It holds some churches, actual warehouses, some kind of spa centers, a really mixed kind of urban tissue in a single building. Our project is there, it's in the 4th floor. And basically what we found was is this kind of an L shape with 450 square meters. And what we found was a completely empty space that we wanted to preserve, 4 meters high. And the client was, he wanted to do a kind of a house for himself, plus his offices, because he owns he owns a computers company. So the request was only this, plus that he wanted to spend less than 200,000 euros, which for 450 square meters was almost impossible. So we started to think about, of the project from the constructive system and from the detail. No? So how to fill these 450 square meters with a single element or with a combination of really not sophisticated and really everyday ubiquitous these structures that are flexible, that are mechanic, that don't require like specialized workers to build them, and which as well can be assembled and disassembled in a really easy way, so it can be reused even if he leaves this space. We ended up choosing this system because all the possibilities that it offered is like the most simple device with all these metal holes, with all these holes that you can combine to produce any element that you want. We started also to test this kind of really cheap shelves that were sold, and in a set of special references that we always like to kind of use, as we've seen in our projects, to always like to approach them with a kind of imaginary that we want to keep during the process that can help us to more or less navigate through all the contradictions that we find in the process. So the project began, actually this test was done even without the project. I mean, the first thing we did literally was to, okay, let's see if this device works and if this detail is it's really load bearing and can be used as to produce mezzanines and two stories, no, in this single space. So with the client's friends, we started to build them. Some particularity is that the project itself is almost self-built, so it had to come from the world of the bricklayer and these really simple elements that can be assembled with non-specialized workers, as I said. This is the actual test that we built, the prototype, and this is where we introduce the panel to gain stability. So this is like the core of the project, which is a shelving system that it works as the structure and also as the partitions. No? So with this, we started to produce. This is also a test, a one-to-one test that we built in one of our apartments. And as it was a rental space, it was produced in a really low-cost way as well, and was also dismantled when we left the apartment. So this module, this is one of the first approaches to the module, no? So with one module and the same elements, kind of the same constructive system, how to produce all the combinations that we wanted to achieve. Like this, for example, the meeting space, in which we also started to introduce different circulations. So the project, as you're going to see, kind of always, like every constructive element that we use serves for two functions, and also the spaces that we use also kind of can lead to the office or to the house. So they are interchangeable and they become like a buffer zone in which you can always play with how to use or how to adapt the space to both kind of worlds. No? We produced a model. The model was also in the same approach, like a really mechanical system where every piece was kind of screwed together. So, and like assembled like in a really linear way with different modules that were repeated. We produced these shelves. And in the end, the model is also, we like producing these kind of models that also allow us to test kind of details that are the result of adapting existing pieces to devices, like we say, like swinging panels or sliding panels like these ones, like these windows. So in the end, the models is not a representation of the space, but also a way for us to kind of, test our intentions and maybe produce something, and have fun at the same time. So we did this model. This is the module that we saw here. And the space, when you will see today, you approach here, you have this kind of long corridor, which is separated by some shelves that also serve for storage and working spaces for this office, which is here. You cross this corridor and you find this buffer zone. So these buffer spaces are boxes that contain all the technical, the climate for both spaces. At the same time, the computers, storage spaces, bathrooms, meeting rooms, etc. So you would always see that there's kind of a looping circulation in which you can access every space through two different staircases, so that all this adaptability is really ensured. So it's not something that was kind of like an empty concept. This is like the mezzanine floor with all the, as you can see, the intervention in reality is completely kind of lightweight and really small, because most of the space is empty and was left as it is, so that it can be appropriated in different ways and can be left as a really bright and livable space, no, with small devices that contain all the technical issues. So this is again the detail which was ready to be produced, and which we, all the combinations that were leading to with the same detail kind of allowed this, no, with a really simple element, we produced many combinations that in the end result in these reinforcement elements that we had to produce. These were prefabricated as well. And the process was really interesting because we didn't have contact with the company that produced them. So the plans had to be really, really clear. And this is also something that helps us, because even if our details are can be a little bit complex, in the end, they are thought to be, as I said, really, really simple. And they are also represented in a really simple way, so that without many knowledge, you can produce them, and we ensure that they work well. As similar to the model, the pieces arrived at the place, and everything was assembled in a really fast way. Like, this was really surprising because it was very effective. This is actually the father of the owner, and the other one is the carpenter from his town that went to do all the paneling. So in the end, this was a self-built project in which we were really involved. The duration was very long, and we had many involvements in the process. This is where we when they set the mezzanine with all these slabs that are also prefabricated, and this was an issue because how to make them fit through the windows. This is one of the interior spaces in which you can see that the shelving system is again the structure that allows all these spatial boxes to stand. Again, we introduced, as we only had two sources of light at both ends, we wanted to make also these boxes, of course, livable. So we introduced these swinging devices that you'll see everywhere in our projects, which in the end allow these spaces to be opened and closed as we want. This is the corridor that is leading to the house through the gallery, before we put some textiles that are kind of hiding this mess, but can be opened just like that. This is an amazing moment that happened when we opened a hole in the kitchen, because this is actually this is one of the few holes we did, which is not completely illegal, let's say, but the client wanted to be able to look at the sky while he was washing the dishes. So when we opened this window, we saw the three chimneys, which is like an amazing moment. And basically, this is the intervention with all these buffer spaces, the boxes, and all the spatial devices that we introduced. In the end, these are the results with photographs by Simone Marconi, which you can see how you can access all these spaces with kind of bridges and circulations that are related to these Getty approaches that we love so much. This is the shelving system and the storage device that separates the office from the corridor that leads to the house. Again, where every element that we introduce serves for many functions. So here is serves for a garden, no? Above, as well a gallery which you can cross, because they have many devices like the IT things that they have to connect everywhere. So this is why it also looks kind of techy. This is the main space, which you can see that is completely empty. Maybe one of the particularities that we love about this house is that it's like we switch this kind of approach in which the technical issues are always or hidden in very heavy elements, kind of as I say, hidden, or kind of I don't know. They're not the lightweight elements that are related to their own character, no? Whereas the furniture is something that is movable, that is lightweight. So we kind of inverted this condition in which we introduced some really heavy concrete, non-movable seating and benches, like benches and devices, which were in the end related to this primitive approach of the house as an open space where you can put and do whatever with a fluid, like in a fluid, open and very bright space, which in the end is what really works. We kind of have this, the project started incorporating this kind of ready-made elements like this chimney that he found in Wallapop, like really cheap, and we had to more or less hang it and place it there. This is also one of the plans and wood. Some the Bach that you see. These are the boxes. The boxes, as I say, they are, I already explained them, so I'm gonna just pass the photos. This is amazing because this is a door that you will see today, and it was done in a way that it works perfectly. It's a 4-meter high door. I don't know how heavy it is, but it works. It's the best door in the house as for opening it. Like you can open it with a single finger. And we also like to incorporate the errors. As you can see in this picture, like many things happening during all this process. Like some things were attached, some things were mistakes, and some of them, most of them basically, we incorporated them like these blue dots, which are the reparation mortar that you put that we got there and somebody used blue instead of gray for this mortar. And we kind of liked it. So instead of replacing it, we left it like this. These other holes that were not the ones planned. So we kind of, instead of hiding them, we highlighted them with a different detail with wood. This is the interior space with a glass floor or a glass ceiling, which introduced the light to this kind of introverted cage, which serves as a meeting room. This is the top floor, so you can see the floor. Like it's also, we wanted to introduce as many light as possible and to do all these devices really livable, as I said. So even though if it looks really technical and really techy, in the end, the purpose was always to introduce light, to have these wide views, this panoramic window that can be opened, so you can have this amazing uninterrupted kind of gap towards the windows. These are the detailings that we incorporate in, some of them in our projects. Besides all these prefabricated and really well thought elements that were kind of planned at the beginning or from the beginning, we started introducing always these other details that we highlight in a different way and that were happening during all the process. These are the platforms. As we didn't have so much money and so much light, we left everything as empty as and open as possible. So these resting platforms are the bedroom, the actual bedroom of the owner. And this is interesting because it has this kind of coziness feeling through the curtains, but at the same time, you're really open to the loft and to the windows and the light, with all these crossed paths that you will be able to see today. And these are also the technical kind of installations that we, instead of hiding them, we like to highlight them in a kind of regular way. We produce this other element, which is the kitchen. The kitchen that also incorporates with a single module in it. It incorporates electricity, water, the watering for plants, the table for the kitchen, the air, etc. So this kind of walkable water system acts as a domestic infrastructure that can kind of bring all the, as we've seen in the axonometry, we kind of order these elements so to leave the empty space as open and as kind of untouched as possible. No? So this is the kitchen that incorporates all these kind of highway of installations in which every device serves as different things at the same time, with this feeling of a really familiar and everyday kitchen, but also with some more technological elements, or maybe that come from the bricolage world instead of from the high-tech world. This is the light, the electricity. the electricity was interesting because for a computer company, they had to have as much flexibility as possible. So we designed this device as well to be able to grow or to shrink depending on the demands of the own company. So this is the storage unit, which can be, you can connect, you can plug everything, and this is like also like a domestic infrastructure in itself, really flexible, really adaptable. And in order to hide all the mess and all the elements that they have in these shelving systems, we kind of put these textile rollers, which also act like a retro lighted element. So it's also almost like a lamp during the night, which is quite nice. And these are all the elements that we saw. This is a combination of all the plants that we introduced as well. And this is kind of the final stack of all the layers that we introduced.
Now we're gonna show two projects that are ongoing. This one is in France. It's the first time we work outside Spain. It's Cibou in the Basque French country. A house that we have to do an extension. The house is in this hill, facing this amazing bay. This is San Juan de Luz. The plot is it's a crazy hill that has these moments of a beautiful garden facing the sea. At the same time, in the other side, you have a street like almost higher than the house. This is the view from the street facing the sea, and you can understand it's like a neo-Basque house that could look from far away like something more or less interesting. But this is the other view from the street above it. And then when you go closer, you start to understand that this neo-Basque house from the mid-20th century is not that interesting. And the details, it looks like wood, it's not wood, it's just paint. No, it's like a fake, like a mask. So we were interested about where is coming this mask from, no? Because the municipality obviously wants that this mask keep looking the same, no? They have like no other options in their mind. So to understand how to do this new extension, because obviously the extension we want to do it here, facing the sea, to understand where is this neo-Basque houses coming from, we were looking to the Basque French or Basque Spanish. They all do the same traditional farmhouse that are at the beginning coming from these stone, massive load-bearing walls that little by little they start to come too expensive for the farmers that wanted to do big properties to have the horses, to have the food, and suddenly they start to build with wood, that maybe you've seen it in many other European countries, with wooden frames that were filled of bricks and some white lime. Here you see like the contrast between these old stone load-bearing walls and this new from the 16th century. This new architecture with this wooden frame that is very interesting for us because it's a wooden frame done with the local materials, and this area is really full of carpenters. They know how to work the wood, and they did in the past these amazing structures that they look complex, but they were really simple because they were using like a small section wood beams, and they were attaching them like without metallic unions, like very simple connections. They were like, if you want to go higher, you just put another wood plot and you keep working. Here you see like the both moments, like the frame in the facade with this white lime that covers the bricks, and this frame that is half improvised, half perfect, solving the structural problem. So we wanted to keep with this understanding of the structure to bring it to a more contemporary solution. So to do the extension. And at the same time, it was like kind of a vernacular camouflage. So if we use the same elements they were using in the past, maybe they will understand the house looks the same as they want, maybe. And so we did this wooden frame that was connected with some sensors. to create this moment where the new extension is like suspended from the old house. So we use the old house like as a weight to balance the new extension. And to test how this looks, we did a model first in 3D. That's how we always do. And this is maybe what we want from our students for this course. And then we try it in a real model where the old house is represented only the facade as this concrete, and then all the weight from the house is represented by these stones floating that do the counterweight of the new extension here. Obviously, the extension has to also deal with other problems because once you cut the existing walls that were like not bearing all this structure, the new structure you do has to connect the new one, like the new beams have to connect the new ones at the old ones. I mean, here you can understand more or less like the extension. It's not that much. It's just simple two new spaces at each level. And this is the wooden structure existing that is simple but basic. We will keep it like it is. But the question here is how to connect all these wooden beams to the new one, to the new beam. And here you see more or less there are two kind of woods that we represent in the model. The one that is a bit more dark, it represents the old one and the new one, and they are connected with this like composite structural beams that we did that allows us to connect in both directions with an upper and a lower beam and create like something more complex that is really easy to go there, remove the wall, put the beam. Suddenly you already have attached the old beams. Then you put the new one, and it comes from the other side. We always think how to produce it before we design it. And and I also will explain that here you see two contrast spaces. The upper one that is more like private with all this frame that works as a wooden frame, and the rooms are like here. So they still have windows, but they are like more privacy. And then the lower part that is this extension we do to the living room that with a terrace, kind of a cantilever that allows the people, like the family, to go to the terrace to connect the living room with these amazing views of the bay. That will be like this here. You can imagine it. Let's see how it's finished.
Okay, and our last project we're going to show is also a renovation in Segovia, in central Spain, really close to Madrid. Again, we're in the countryside, in a small town. And this small town is quite interesting because it has preserved these really authentic, constructive methods of rammed earth. This is the actual entrance to the house. Of stone walls that come from the actual stones from the side. So it's like a really rocky area where you can achieve these kind of elements. This really particular and almost impossible detailing of for the roof, for the tiles, which is really particular of this area. And our house, it's in reality, it's a renovation of an existing warehouse, or kind of a, I don't know in English the word, but it's where they store everything that was attached to the house, The house, sadly, was completely transformed in a neo-contemporary kitsch, stone house. But luckily, we've been able to find this space as this, which was fascinating. When we approached this at first, it was like, wow, this is one of the most incredible spaces we've been able to work at. So we were about to do the project, suddenly the client changed his mind. This is the thing when you work with private clients. He decided, instead of doing the project, he decided to do a concrete slab and spend the summer there. So when we came back next year without knowing if we were going to do the project again, we found this, and it was quite amazing, to be honest, because it was like kind of a self-built, not self-built, but it was built by the local workers, but without any kind of, I don't know, you would say sensitivity or architectural project. But in the end, it was really beautiful, and they've been really sensible in the end. So we wanted to preserve this atmosphere. We wanted to preserve all these elements that were kept almost untouched. this rammed earth combined with timber attractive details, this atmosphere with also hidden views and cross views, this kind of Romanesque interior atmosphere, which was amazing, that we love. So in the end, the project is really, really simple. We just renovated the roof, preserving as many wooden strips as we could. It produced this kind of amazing moments as well. So like all this space is really magical. It relates almost to a kind of a primitive temple. So this is the actual space, which is the annex to the house. So in the end, it's going to have only one bedroom. Well, you see it here. It's going to have one bedroom, bathroom, a kitchen, and 2 fireplaces, and that's it. And plus a porch. So we wanted to do a really lightweight intervention, again with reusable systems that could be taken away so that the space could be preserved as it is, and maybe could go back to its original state. With all of these technological, well, not technical, more than technological devices, like this lighting system, the electricity supply that you need. This is the plan for the electricity. So in the end, as I say, it's more a project about how to introduce these really lightweight and really technical elements that are very technological and that contrast a lot with the existing amazing space, but in a kind of a really delicate approach, you know? So we are still building this. The client set a date of the 1st of August to finish it because he wants to spend the summer here and to use the swimming pool. This is the actual state of the project, so I hope we get there because we're a bit tight. And for the exterior, we're only doing a porch, like in a really simple way. And you'll see that even though we designed this kind of high-tech pillars that are more or less contemporary or contrasting with the language of all the intervention, in the end they are like they're like really lightweight, maybe the lightest devices or elements that we could design that were kind of supporting a really conventional and not non-designed element, like non-designed roof that the constructor, that the local builder could build, no? Like really costless and very efficiently without sophisticated details or without being at the site all the time, no, controlling what was going on. So we always have this fascination for the technical processes of how the works go, because sometimes when you get there, like this obsession that as architects we all have, I guess, about controlling, no, what's going on in the construction site. Which, as we're in Barcelona and we have everything, well, most all of our construction sites outside Barcelona, we always have to come up with solutions that allow us to control the process while at the same time leave this amount of uncertainty to kind of happen without interrupting the project, no? Or without interfering with the project. So the elements that we produce for this is the mosque of the Cordoba's mosque. This is a reference that we always have. Maybe it's not so straight, direct for this project, but in the end, what was so fascinating about the Mosque of Cordoba is that with a single element, which in this case is the Roman pillars that were found scattered across the area, they managed to produce a system of an open, a really flexible kind of contemporary space with hypostel kind of temple, which in the end incorporated these elements and were transformed only by adding some different elements that were attached to it without completely transforming them. No? So you can find here that in order to give more height and to have like this kind of double height space, which is not suited, which is best suited for this function, they kind of produced like a hybrid architectural detail. For us, it was kind of the same because with these pillars, with these single pillars, we wanted to achieve stability for the wind. No? So in one direction, we have the wall, so we can kind of use the wall as a stability element in this direction, but in the other direction, the pillars had to kind of control the lateral forces. The tripod here is the best way that we thought of for doing it. So in the end, it's repeating the same pillar, but the pillar, in a way, kind of instead of touching the ground in one point, it touches in 2 points with really simple elements that you can achieve everywhere and really sophisticated ones that we designed almost like in the model because they are laser cut as well. So this is the only plan that the builder had for building these kind of sophisticated details, which in the end is something that we really like because we don't have to be there, we don't have to explain it very carefully, even though if the detail looks quite kind of sophisticated or complex at the same time. So they are only single elements that can be assembled in a really easy way, welded, prefabricated in the warehouse, transported to the site, and installed in a really easy way. So like these pillars were built literally in less than one morning. Like when he started to build it and before lunch, he was like, okay, I finished it. And then he transported them to the site. He installed them again in one morning. And well, currently we're waiting for the rest of the house to be finished. And this is the state. And in the end, even though they look a little bit strange or in contrast with the existing house or the existing like of vernacular techniques, we always find that these elements are repeated again and again in architecture. So this has this vernacular relationship again of what's available, what can be done here, and how to reuse contemporary elements in a way that they are always in continuous from a technical point of view with what's already existing in the site. And well, basically this.
There's a question there.
Thanks a lot for the lecture and beautiful explanation of the project. I find it really inspiring. I find very interesting how you're describing all the projects, like without almost using architectural words, like it's never walls, it's never roof, doors, it's never table, chair. It's always elements and devices. And I find this like very interesting because somehow like looking at your projects, like what it produces is like transcending the domesticity of the space or the traditional domesticity of the space and the typology. And your spaces are kind of like blurring into a way, like in a way that you cannot really recognize typologies anymore. And I was wondering if this is like an intention that you're trying to achieve, or if it's more the result of your fascination to this like technical detailing and like the fact that this technical detailing is translating into these very hybrid and like flexible structures. It's shifting away from the traditional meaning of the domestic space.
Yeah, maybe it's as I said, like every device we try to make them, well, maybe it's a bit far, but we try that every device or element is a hybrid. I don't know, we take this approach from De La Sota, no? In which, well, he's from Madrid, Alejandro De La Sota. He's an amazing architect that had this also technical approach and which was fascinated for things that could work in different ways, no? So the same thing can be used in several ways. So maybe it's a way of, like, I don't know, a lack of a better word. So we call them devices. So they are kind of open things that can be used for many programs or functions or maybe for a combination of typologies, no? So maybe it's just a result of this approach, this technical approach.
Hi, my name is Kevin, and appreciate your great lecture. I have one question. So it was quite impressed that when you design space, you also design the whole many elements, not only just the whole space. The one thing I'm concerned is if I imagine I do like that is that because I'm not using the standardized or previous products, so I'm concerned that it might be my new design doesn't work, or it doesn't fit as I expected when I put it in the space. That's my concern, and I just wonder, do you have such cases, and if you have, how to overcome those kind of things finish it?
And when we place these devices in the spaces, they don't fit for what?
Yeah. I mean, doesn't work. The mechanism or design doesn't work, or doesn't fit as I expected. It might be. So if there's a case like that, then how you
But fits it from a spatial point of view, like the experience of the space. You mean the experience of the space, or it doesn't fit because it doesn't work mechanically, or what?
Yeah, just like.
Sorry, I don't understand.
I mean, it might be a little bit different than you expected, because you designed something pretty new one.
Well, one thing that we do, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's maybe for the clients it's not so good, but we're sorry because we're like this. Sometimes you have to accept it, but yeah, we always try things on site, let's say. So this kind of technological world, in the end, they're really simple devices that we try to test them more or less as much as we can on site. So in the end, there hasn't been a big surprise until now.
I would say as well that it's important that they are always cheap, and this is also something helpful because you can play with them with a bit more of relax. Like you're not doing something that technological that you need to spend all the money of the client.
For example, the pillars. Well, this was shocking, you can say, because the pillar looked actually like in the model. So it was kind of we were really shocked as we did the model first at our office. When the actual pillars arrived on the site, we didn't understand anything. We were like, well, I don't know, it's a matter of skill. But once you place them and once you take some distance, they really fit well. So yeah, we've been lucky.
You did a lot of testing before the.
Well, yeah. I mean, testing, we produce everything is really detailed in 3D.
And the structural testing as well. We always start with this conversation of how it works structurally, and we test it. Sometimes we talk with engineers, some others not, because they don't want.
We always work with a 3D. We improvise, but first we do it in 3D, in Rhino. So for the ones that are in our program, you can know why our obsession with Rhino. Do everything in Rhino. The smaller screw as well.
Hi, well, thanks for the lecture again. I think I'm not too sure how to pose it, but especially the window that you've kind of alluded to, but all of it, like the mezzanine construction and the installations, how do you work with regulations?
No, we don't.
Because all of it seems, I'm not too sure how I would fit it into what I'm being taught. Let's put it that way.
No, but man, they work. I mean, this guy, for example, is the electrician,
Oh, yeah.
and he tells us if this is going to work or not, regulation-wise. Then, well, it's a gray area. Everything in Spain is a little bit. Well, it's a good thing about this context. At least for this, it's not Switzerland. So yeah, regulations are there. You can use them or you can maybe.
But especially in renovations, it's easier because you don't have to be
so.
checked. And for the new buildings, you have to be sure which parts have to be regulated and which are not. And then you play more with ones and you forget the others. No, like where I put the energy, okay, in the blinds, and the window itself, okay, regulation.
Yeah.
This is what you have to understand in each project.
Yeah, it's like the freedom. No, yeah, the freedom margins that we find. So sometimes they are not following the regulations, but it's okay. And sometimes we have to be really strict with regulations that we produce different things.
I have one more question. Because looking at all these solutions, they're very site specific and you approach them like from a very detailed point of view. So first you look at the detail and then you apply it to structure. Can you also imagine developing the structures and applying them to like a big scale project? Like, is it something that you can imagine doing, or is it something so specific that you would like to keep it?
Question.
I will start saying that in a new fixed context, we have to understand what is available. Like, is it easy to bring wood? Is it easy to bring concrete? And then start like from this, what is cheaper there? What is the most vernacular approach you can do there? So from this, you start designing these complex devices, but only understanding what is around.
No, but it's true that maybe, as I don't know, like the small scale attention is the result of not working in a big scale, maybe. So I don't know, we have obsessions and we have, I don't know, put a lot of work maybe in small things because that's what we do. We do renovations, so instead of, I don't know, choosing materials, we like devices. So, but maybe if the devices were bigger, maybe we wouldn't design the screw or the smaller part, and we would focus more in the overall project. But it's a good question. When the big project comes, we.
This more question for you then. It's you have now your system or your way of thinking, so kind of mind. You also accept that it's about the detail or you find this kind of pleasure. Basically, you like to be in full control over things. But also wonder for yourself, do you ever doubt or are you still happy because this is very hard work? It's so frustrating. Do you think you need to continue by being in control, or could you find a moment to release yourself to let go of control? That's maybe the question for yourself also during like a smaller scale, because the bigger scale, maybe you lose a bit of control. But I also really like what you do. Actually, I fully understand. It's like so passionate. It's also something I struggle with. So like being in control.
Yeah. Well, this is something for us. That's why I like we started with this space, because this is a project which had nothing to do. Basically, the project we did, the section, was completely different from this. We had a mezzanine, we had like different levels, we had many things. And when we arrived there one summer, the client decided to flatten everything, do some different things, and we were like, okay, not controlling at all this, it's quite nice. So we I don't know, we found, like, we adjusted our expectations, let's say, to get this incredible space, completely different, as I say, from what we wanted to do, but in the end, really full of potential and really interesting. So I don't know, we changed our approach, and we decided to, instead of doing a heavy renovation or a renovation that touches everything, we approach it in a much more feasible way, let's say, because that we understood that the client wanted something very cheap and very fast. So we were like, okay, let's redo it. And yeah, basically, I don't know, the control and no control is an issue. That's why we are so obsessed with the small things, and maybe the big ones we are like, well, it's fine. If it's blue, we have blue dots there.
Okay. It's a good attitude. Now you find the spot where you can find the collaboration with your client. Like,
yeah.
On your project, you seem to find that moment where it starts to.
Yeah.
For example, in France, the housing civil, obviously we can't control what's happening in the bathroom, what's happening inside the rooms, but the wooden structure is the thing we want to control. So you select something, and all your energy has to be there. Yeah. And the client doesn't even know what's happening. Like they trust, and it's something they don't call us because they want these details, but we introduce them the details, and
that's this. I mean, our interest in vernacular architecture is not only for the I don't know, that we like local architecture from Segovia. It's like, okay, in Segovia, they still build like this. So if you trust the guy that knows how to build like this to do their own project, let's say their own, no, like the roof of the Porsche, like we are not getting into that detail. We know how he does it, we adapt to it, and then we design the pillars that we control. So in the end, it's like, okay, we don't control the majority of it, but we're okay because we more or less know how it's going to be.
Yes.
So that the project has to go from the beginning in that direction. You have to be interested in what the builders know how to do, what to do.
Question there.
Just a quick question. When you approach design, what's the most important thing? Is it structure? Is it space? Is it form? I feel like I have a hunch, but I wanted to hear what your thoughts were.
I didn't hear the last part. Like, which is
what's the most important thing when you approach design? Is it structure or space that you're making or form?
Well, I would say it's a structure. Because, I mean, when we find a structure, most of the times we don't. So,
I would say construction.
Yeah. No, but at the same time, we are obsessed with this as the program. We are obsessed with this balance between things. So everything we design is a kind of a structure on itself. Yeah. So even though it's not a load bearing system, we like elements that can be supported. Well, we won't see it here, but I don't know. We have a lamp here that is not visible, but it's a lamp that if you add weight in one side, it flips, so it can kind of light upwards or downwards depending on the weight you add. So I don't know. We like structures, and we like to apply these structural principles from a technical point of view, but sometimes in a small scale that nobody really cares for, but that we love. For us, it's a test.
And it's like a game.
Way, right? Your desire is not the generic structures, but more interesting ones, or new ones. Strange, like is that a consideration as well? Or?
No, we like structures, yeah. Interesting ones. I don't know. Le Ricolet, Prouvet, these kind of guys that were in the field of engineering and architecture at the same time. I don't know, Nervi, yeah, this kind of guys that, there are many, Felix Candela, we like that, yeah.
And maybe it's like a conversation about like, which is the gap we have architects in many projects. Maybe the structure is forget, but maybe it's more interesting to focus there than to focus in how you want to do the kitchen, no? Because sometimes the client will be like into it, but in the structure they will never touch it. So it's more like
I only ask because in Australia, I feel like a lot of architects, they focus more on like forms and spaces, and they separate out the engineer touches the structure, and then it's sort of like a bit more.
Yeah, but maybe because we're not good at designing kitchens and bathrooms. So, and it's good in the end because it's something that the clients want, and we don't care about them. So in the end, we focus on what we like, and they don't know about them, and they do the kitchen and the bathrooms, and we're all happy. It works.
And about the engineering, obviously we don't calculate anything, but we understand how it works. So you only have to bring to the engineer the concept, but really work. Like you have to work on it. Almost we give them the profiles, and they say yes. That's not what we want. But we don't do numbers.
I guess it's mostly about the trying at the site itself. When you say like you don't really calculate the stuff, I guess it's more about like trying what's possible, and after that you know, or how can I move that?
Well, no, I think I don't know. We have a train that you go there and you see a pillar, the section of the pillar for a pavilion. What is it, more or less 10 by 10? Then you do things with 10 by 10 pillars, and then you pass it to the calculator and put it there. Or not, maybe add something. I don't know. It's not really about testing. It's about looking at things and, I don't know, memorizing them, I guess.
Thank you for your lecture. I'm really interested in these kind of
period constructions that you have these devices. And I really like the approach that you use, I guess, cheap materials, telling to construct them. And I was wondering if I can imagine that the way they look, or like the aesthetic that comes out of it, is not a main concern of your like structure is the main concern. But I guess for the clients, they also, I guess, might have an opinion on how it looks, like the outcome. Are there examples of where the client was like, oh, this, I don't know how that might fit into my imagination of how I will live, or like how it will work, and like what's the response, or like do they come to you for this kind of?
Many projects that we're not showing before. So when we don't like them, we don't show them, and that's it.
But for example, in La Nave, what you will see today, I don't think the client had ever like a picture of all the installation we wanted to do it clear in their mind. They understood the spaces, the wood, the panels, the windows, but then if you start with more details, then they don't get into that. But at the same time, when you do it, they like it. So easy to go in that way. Easier than if you touch things that they care.
And this is why we also like to work with a lot of models, and we detail a lot, and we do like small tests in every work, no? Like, okay, maybe it's a chimney, maybe it's a small roof, maybe, so that the client will always trust you more if they have seen like a proof that you can do it and how it looks instead of a render or something like this. So yeah, a way of working slowly to gain the trust. And sometimes it doesn't work and they don't trust you. They want a nice kitchen and that's it.